Oh my gosh. Okay. What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. I got my coffee. I'm feeling good. Love coffee. Alright, today is a good day because I'm gonna be talking about how I study for like everything, okay? The way I study, a lot of people have been asking me exactly how I study, and in the other videos I've been kind of vague about it. So I've been like, study how you want to study, whatever works for you works for you. Don't like change your studying habits, etc., etc. But people have been asking me, I don't know why I use this to point. People have been asking me how I study and to kind of like tell you guys about it so that maybe it'll work for you. So I thought, the people want it, so like why not do it? So let's get into it. So the way I study, and for today's video I'm going to be talking about like studying for a class, not so much for the MCAT because I've kind of done that before. But when I study for a class, it kind of, it all depends on the class that I'm going to, and you have to be very adaptive when you're studying, especially like, higher level pre-med courses, and even in med school you have to be super adaptive because you don't study the same way for every class. You have to kind of change it up for whatever class, whatever year, every single class and every single moment in your life, whatever you're studying, if it's the MCAT, if it's, whatever it is, you have to study differently for it and kind of, manage what you know and what you don't know about it so that you can use your resources properly and not waste time doing things you don't have to do. So the first thing that you got to pay attention to is, what does the professor want? Okay, you have to know very distinctly, what exactly do I have to do to get an A for this class? And do that, don't do any more, don't do any less. Okay, so if a professor says that, I'm gonna have PowerPoints and there's also gonna be a textbook and you should study the textbook, then what that means is PowerPoint, textbook, study the textbook. Like it's, if he says do it or she says do it, you gotta do it. But if the professor says, I have a PowerPoint and the textbook, you don't really need it, then don't buy the textbook. Like, don't study the textbook. From my experience, this doesn't really happen for a lot of like the important classes, for like bios and sciences. There's always a textbook and you always, like you need to study it. But for some of my like lower level, like, psychology and like, sociology sometimes, there's not really like a need to study the textbook. So, maybe sometimes I would buy the textbook, but I usually wouldn't use it to study. I would just use a PowerPoint. So you need to know, what do I need to do to get an A, and then do specifically that. Okay, so when you're studying, where does your studying start? It starts in class. So when you go to class, make sure that you're paying attention to what the teacher says is important. Okay, so, when you're sitting in class, your goal isn't to just like write everything down and to just like do everything while you're in class. Your goal is to kind of recognize what the professor says is important, and kind of like if there's something that you don't understand, if, even if you're gonna try to like understand it, maybe ask a question to the professor, there's gonna be a lot of times where you're not gonna understand it in class. Just make sure you know what you don't know, okay? So like if there's something you don't understand and you know it's important, write it down, circle it, make sure you know it, because later on, then you can learn it. And also make sure, like if the professor says that, okay, this is not that important, make sure you jot that down too. You don't want to be like wasting a bunch of time studying something that you don't have to study, because then like what's the point, So, but yeah, say for, if it's a class that, if it's a class that has PowerPoints, okay, I usually print them out. So I'll have a printout, and I'll usually print out all the PowerPoints, and in class what I'm trying to do is pretty much take notes, important stuff. So anything that the teacher says that's supplemental to the material, you want to jot it down. If it's on the PowerPoint and it's explicitly written, you don't want to like write it again, It's anything where the professor kind of steps aside and is trying to explain something and is using the words that are not in the PowerPoint or like not anywhere else. That's the stuff you want to pay attention to. Now, when you go home, this is where most of the like absorbing happens. So in class, you want to know what's important. You want to know what to like study later on. When you get home, the first thing I want to just like let you guys know is, please divide up your studying. Like, don't cram. I know a lot of people cram. I've crammed before, but it just like, it doesn't work as well. What you want to do is like, you want to keep up with the material. You don't want to fall behind, especially when it comes to classes like organic chemistry and, you know, like biochem. Once you fall behind, it's like, it's just like slippery slope from there. You just fall down and it's kind of over. So, you know, if you're on chapter 8 in the syllabus, make sure you've done up to chapter 8 and like you're not falling behind, because you don't want to go to class and you're like, dude, I'm like 15 chapters behind and like I have no idea what's going on. I don't even know what school I'm at right now. But you know, you want to you want to like keep up, and you don't want to fall behind. If there's a textbook, which most of the time there's a textbook, you need to make notes. Like, you need to read the textbook. You got to read it chapter by chapter. You got to jot down the things that are important. And the most important thing is, like, you have to categorize everything, okay? You have to organize the information. Absorbing the information is one thing, you know, absorbing it is, you know, we've done it our whole lives. You sit there, you read it, you practice it, you absorb it. But you'll have such a better time studying, and you'll be so much more efficient if you're able to organize, you know, have like headings and have different organizations and different levels of importance. So when you're talking about like, you know, the circulatory system, and then you're talking about, you know, so dash, and you have circulatory system, then like to the side put like, you know, veins and arteries, and have little subdescriptions, because a lot of times we study things and we know things, but we forget the context, and context is like so it's so important for like when you're taking a test, because you need to be able to like connect different ideas together. And the best way to do that is organization, like subcategories, and just like, you know, make sure everything is organized, and, you know, everything just has a place in where you're taking your notes. If there's no textbook, because when there's a textbook, the best supplemental material is a textbook. So if there's no textbook, then a lot of times, you know, if there's something in the PowerPoint or whatever I'm using to learn, if there's something that I don't understand, I would usually go on like Khan Academy, which, shout out to Khan Academy, like blessed my life forever, especially for the MCAT. Khan Academy is like heaven. Use Khan Academy if there's something you don't understand. You know, if there's a class where your textbook is optional, which a lot of times is not really optional, but if it's actually optional, then like go in the textbook, you know, make sure you're reading whatever you don't understand and like write it down. Because trust me, like as much words as there are in textbook, and as much as you hate just like open it up and be like blah, like all these words just popping up, it's like, it's the best way to understand something. Like, they literally take their time to make sure that whoever is reading this textbook understands the material. So textbooks are awesome, as much as everyone hates them. So that's how you want to study. You know, you want to, going back to the first point I made, you want to know what you have to do to get the A. You want to, like, if there's a textbook, study the textbook, study it well, organize the information. Like, you know, a lot of people use highlighters. I use highlighters here and there. Not the biggest fan, because again, like I mentioned, I'm kind of colorblind, so I don't really like, you know, when I'm using different colors, it doesn't really do anything for me. But, you know, maybe I'll use like a yellow and like a blue or something that are like super different, and it's good because it can categorize the information more. I'll know, like, I'll use one level of importance for the yellow highlighter and a different level for the blue, so I'm not just highlighting everything. And I know a lot of people who, like, they swear by highlighters, and it's important, you know, if it helps you, then use it for your own good. At home when you're studying, this is a point that I wanted to get to. Taking breaks. A lot of people ask about taking breaks, how they should take breaks. You need to take breaks. Like, it's so important for you to take breaks. It might be just as important for you to study as it is for you to take breaks, because if your brain is just like completely fried and there's like a potato in your head, you're not going to retain any information. You can throw textbooks at a potato, the potato will not, like, it won't get smarter, you know? Does that make sense? So you have to be fresh, you know? As far as how often you should take breaks, that's kind of like, you know, individualistic. You kind of do that on your own. Some people can study for like, you know, an hour or 2 hours without having to take a break, and then they'll take like a longer break. Some people study for like 30 minutes and they'll take like a 10-minute break. For me, I'm kind of like, you know, I'll study for 45 minutes, I'll take a 15-minute break, study for 45 minutes, take a 15-minute break. And that's the way I kind of do it. So that way it's like 75%, 25%. I think I did the math right on that one. Yeah, 75%, 25%. And that's how I kind of split it up. Some people are more lenient when it comes to their studying. Some people are more strict. For me, that's usually what works. When it comes to these little guys, a lot of people, they like, you know, when they're studying, they like throw their phones out the window and they're like, dude, like it's the devil, I don't want to touch it. For me, I honestly, like, you know, I've developed a good amount of self-control within the past few years. So I'll have my phone like face down on my desk. I'll make sure it's face down, so if a notification pops up, I'm not like looking directly at it, and I'm not like doing this every single like 5 seconds. But you know, I have it there because, you know, it builds self-control. That's the first thing. Second of all, you never know, like, you know, if someone calls and there's an emergency. And on top of that, a lot of times when I'm studying, I like text my friends and ask a question, or if there's something I need clarification on. So I kind of need it. But unless I need to do something like that, I'm not touching my phone. You know, unless like I need to text someone, or like a lion like walks into my room, chops my leg off, then I'll call like 911 and be like, yo, my leg is chopped off. Other than that, it's face down on my desk. Music is huge. Like, people love listening to music nowadays, man. But honestly, like, don't do that. Don't listen to music when you're studying. You know, if you're sitting there studying biochemistry and you're listening to Drake, you're not studying biochemistry, dog. You're listening to Drake, which, like, no disrespect toward Drake. I love the guy, he's a cool guy, but you're not, like, your attention is divided. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. You're like, dude, I'm like super bougie. I don't listen to Drake. I listen to Mozart, which is cute, but like, don't do that either, because at the same time, it's still like there's a noise coming in your ear and your brain has to process it. And even if you're not like consciously aware, subconsciously, your attention is being divided. And there's studies on this, like Google it, you'll see that when it comes to like complex tasks, like studying and trying to absorb biochemistry, which, like, you know, it's pretty difficult, the music won't help you at all. So like, try to be in the most quiet place, you know, in a library, in a quiet room, somewhere like that, and just put all your attention on the book, on the PowerPoint, whatever you're studying, put all your attention on it for 45 minutes or however long you're doing it, and then take your break. Just made the camera shake. Take your break, and what you want to do on your break is up to you. Usually I just like go downstairs. I drink way too much coffee. I'll make myself another coffee, which sip. Oh my God, my mustache. Okay. Yeah, whatever you want to do on your breaks, just make sure you kind of clear your mind. That was like super zen. And yeah, and then get back to studying, and then get back at it. And if you divide up your studying, you won't have to cram, and that's the best part. And that leads me up to my last point, which is you need to sleep. Like, you need to sleep super well. And the best way to do that is to just make a schedule for yourself. Never like go into a day not knowing what you're gonna do. Be like, okay, this is when I get out of class. This is what time I'm gonna get home. I'll take a little break. I'll start studying this time. I'll stop studying this time. I'll go to the gym, do whatever, eat, and then, you know, go to sleep at this time, and follow your schedule. That's the best way to like make sure you do everything and you sleep on time. Usually I try to aim for like, they say 8 hours. I try to aim for 7. I probably get like 6. Which is still pretty good when it comes to like med school and stuff. But you know, that's maybe something I need to work on a little bit more. But just with the schedule and everything, it's kind of hard sometimes. But sleep is so important, because a lot of your retention of information happens when you're sleeping and you're kind of practicing everything that you learned. It's kind of not like studied too much, but it's been shown that it's been shown that when you sleep, you retain the information a lot more. So yeah, that's my video for you guys. There's also a video that I want to make in the future about how to specifically study for the MCAT. I've made like 3 MCAT videos. People are still confused. So I might make a video on that. And I made a video about the personal statement. It kind of got shut down a little bit. There was an issue with that. So I might do another video on the personal statement. And also I figured out how to do custom thumbnails, which is like, geez, that was so easy. So I don't have to like wear a stethoscope throughout the whole video anymore. That might have been a little annoying. But I might do it again for fun at the same time. With that being said though, it's nice seeing you guys, even though I don't really see you guys, it's a camera. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Follow me on Instagram, shout me out, click the subscribe button, I don't know where it is. Comments down here, comment whatever you want to comment. Every video I say this. If you reply to my video, send me a DM on Instagram. You guys know this. I reply to every single one. I'm a pretty talkative person. So hit me with a question, hit me with a statement, whatever you want to hit me with. I will reply to you guys. I'm here to help. I'll see you guys next time.